All right, from all the conversation around numbers, inflation, food, well, something that has to do with how we put food on our table, but this time it has to do with skills and entrepreneurship. Joining us is the chairman of the board, I Train Africa, Adio-Adepoju, join us right here in our Lagos City. Welcome, madam, to the program.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
When we have women, there's a broad spectrum of question because we're he for she's. I'm looking forward to one woman that will contest for Nigeria's president. I will support her someday, because men brought us here. Whatever we're dealing with, men brought us here. So that's why we celebrate women as much as we can. From where you sit and what you do, walk us through what are the gaps you've experienced or seen within that space and how you're closing it.
Okay, thank you very much for having me. So first, I would say that, you know, when you start something from a personal pain point, you would understand how it feels. So I was on my PhD program and I had to go to the UK to go and do a part of my research. And I realized that I was very brilliant, schooled, but again, in terms of doing the actual work beyond the research, which was my area of focus in chemistry, I lacked the skills to then, you know, support the output of the work, the presentation of the work. And I realized that someone else in my field that was doing lesser than I was doing, but had presentation skills and all those skills to support the work, was going to be shining. And I was like, okay, what is happening here? You are doing more work, but you are having less output. And I realized that that was not just about me. Like, this was like a general problem in Africa where we were not looking to, we were just looking to go to school, but not actually think about what exactly education is when it comes to the 21st century. What is education? It should meet the need of the workforce. And we realized that there was so many information online, but the information was not translating to people being skilled. Because you hear, oh, there's soft skills, there's this, that, and you go on Google, you read it, and there is still nothing. Like, it doesn't translate to you having the skills that the employer of labor is demanding, or whether it is the skills for you to do research in the academic sector, or even the skills to run your business properly. So this foundational skills that everybody needs, and part of it is digital literacy, was lacking in almost everyone. And this was not about the level of education, because if it was, everybody that has gone to school will be employed. But every employer of labor is complaining about the same thing. People don't have skills to work. So it was beyond just saying quality education, SDG4. It was not like, what exactly does quality mean? Simply put, it must meet the need of the workforce if it must drive the economic growth in Africa.
So digital skill.
Yeah, digital skills, but you know, that's the funny thing. I had to develop a curriculum across 3 years. And why am I saying that? I realized that because I realized there was no information about what those skills are, I then had to go on research and say, what should we even call them? So I call them workplace foundational skills, because under that umbrella, then we have digital skills, we have the soft skills, we have the life skills, and we have basic tech skills. How do I mean? It doesn't matter if you are doing tech or not. You will need to be able to create things like Gantt charts, which like you use in organizing a basic project, which would be like a project just that you are handling, not because you're a project manager.
Gantt chart is,
exactly.
So you can explain.
So a Gantt chart is something like you are trying to do like a project. Let me give an example of a project, a webinar. You want to organize a webinar. You want to organize an online seminar. It is a project. So it will have timelines. So it is not until you're a project manager before you're organizing a webinar for your business. But then you're organizing it and you're realizing that you're not meeting timelines. Because why? The basic on how to use a Gantt chart to say, this is what I want to do, this is the time I want to do it, this is how it should run, this is who is on the project, which will be basic for everybody that is doing any form of work at all. That's why I used an example of a webinar. These days, even it's like one-person business will say, oh, I want to organize an online webinar. If you want to organize an online webinar, which is a basic project, you want to do a flyer and say, oh, this is this thing. It means you should know how to use Canva, which is basic, which is a digital software to do basic design. Or you want to organize a webinar, it means you are going to have to present something there, which means you need to know how to do presentation slides, which you have to do on Google Slide or Canva. So those things were foundational. It doesn't matter the industry. So I had to then spend 3 years in developing a curriculum to even gather it. And because of my wide range of experience, I'd taught at university for about 2 years. I'd been an entrepreneur for like 15 years. And I'd also worked professionally at UN Live, which is Museum for United Nations, remotely in Nigeria. So I realized what employers were asking for internationally. I also realized what was lacking in the academics because I was in the classroom. So this was like firsthand. I know what is lacking in this curriculum. Like there's a wide gap. Education does not equal employability. Like that was just the gap there.
Wow.
Yeah.
So I'm wondering whether you're also looking into other spaces that are a bit close to digital, but not necessarily digital, which is even without research, at a glance, you can see that, you know, the expatriates are the one taking up much of the lucrative jobs in this space, i.e., you know, the engineering fields, which we see a lot of foreign companies providing intervention and less of the indigenous companies. Automated processes in industries, you find that there's a high demand for expatriates, you know, to operate those processes, and you do not see a lot of our own people there. What do you identify as the challenge in this skills gap? You know, is it what we've known age long as the disconnect between the town and the gown? And, you know, what interventions are you offering in this space?
Okay, thank you very much. So here's the thing. I think when I had the privilege of working at UN Live, we would need to hire someone out of Africa. I realized that, and this is just me having to look at the truth. An average African or Nigerian would not be early to this thing. And those are part of the foundational things. And the way they work there, like when they say a meeting is 10 o'clock, they add it to your calendar. You should show up at 10 o'clock. But an average African, when they walk into a meeting at 10:02, and they don't even see there's something wrong. So beyond, like, there are a lot of people that are having technical skills right now. They have the technical skills, they can do the AI, they can do all the machine learning and everything, but they can still be hired internationally. Why? And that is why we had to then design something at iTrain Africa, which is as a Skilled for Work Academy. We said, you know what? You would go to an interview, you qualify technically, like you are being interviewed for a remote job, but at the end of the day, they tell you, you know, you can go. So what I have realized is the fact that even if we are doing a lot of technical trainings, people are doing the coding, they are doing this thing, there is still the gap of the foundational skills. So when people go to interview, they are asking you something like, oh, if you had to go to, we had to do something, and how will you do this? Maybe add something about calendar. And the person goes on and on explaining their coding. But because those people, they realize that no matter the level of technicality you have, if you cannot comply with the work ethics, with the other things that are not necessarily your area of expertise, they won't hire you. They wouldn't hire you. And I realized that when I was at UN Live, I think I was the only black, you know, do you understand what I'm saying? Like, I was the only black this thing. Why? One of the first things they asked me at my interview was, have you worked internationally before? And I understood that question because, again, I've been in that space for a while. And I understood what they were not, it was not about my international experience. It was about me understanding the work ethic that is demanded in that space. Not that I'll be working remotely in Nigeria and they can't just reach me.
And
like,
you know, wherever you are, there are certain skills that are just basic.
They're just basic.
That just come to play.
So it is not about us not having the skill, like the technical skills, that they're not hiring us internationally. It is about us not having the work ethic that is demanded internationally.
And we have to give it to a lot of people who, in spite of the, perhaps you call it stereotype or proven fact, they're still able to transcend all of that and deliver on the jobs. You know, my dad did something when we were young to help us combat this African timing thing. Every clock in the house was 30 minutes fast.
Oh, wow.
So he was even doing it, sometimes he would change it to 45 minutes. So you can't just make sure you're out of the house once you see the time is almost that. And I think that helped to inculcate that habit of getting to places early. So maybe parents might want to do that, switch your time to 30 minutes fast. But I hear that people call you the clarity king. Right.
Yeah.
I really don't know what that means, but I imagine clarity, you help provide clarity. And I think one of the challenges people have in this part of the world is just figuring life out. What am I meant to do? Am I meant to do this? Okay, I've gotten a job, but I'm not really happy in the job, but it's paying me, even though I'm frustrated. So a lot of people need clarity, and they just want to ensure that they don't get burnt in the process, so they follow their passion. And their passion ends up giving their passion. If you're a Yoruba person, you know that's whooping. So how can you get clarity as a young Nigerian?
I think, why do they call me Clarity King? It's because there is no program we have at the academy that doesn't start with clarity model. And again, there is something I would typically say to in everywhere I go. I say, no matter how fast you race in the wrong direction, you will never arrive at your destination. You could get a Formula One and be saying, oh, I want to go to Abeokuta. But even if you're racing to Abeokuta, if that is not your destination, you would arrive there, but it's not where you are going. So I feel like, and that is the problem of most people now. You see, business analysis, they are doing cybersecurity, they are doing everything because they've heard that they need to upskill. That is like a thing now, you need to upskill. But many people are not clear on the courses they are taking, how it's going to then translate to their upgrade or their upskill. So what we then did at iTrain Africa was to first introduce what we call the clarity model. I think that's probably the most unique model. I don't think I've seen any other curriculum or academy have that in their curriculums. So the clarity model, we typically have 3 major things, which is first about the mindsets. Because look, if you teach somebody a skill from today to tomorrow, if their mindset is not ready to learn, you're just wasting your time. So we would do like a mindset lesson, then we will do what we call a personality test. A personality test is like the one we typically use at the academy is 16 personalities. It is free. So in those 16 personality tests, it simply highlights it are your weaknesses, and most of the time, it's 90% accurate. So people then realize, oh, I don't like numbers, or I won't do well in a profession that has numbers. Then why are you upskilling in business analysis? Why are you upskilling in data analysis? So by the time they come to the academy, and those clarity modules are typically incorporated in the foundational one, which is for everybody. Not that, because at our academy, we have the soft skills core, we have the technical skills core, then we have the internship for experience, which is like an holistic approach to this job gap. So at the very beginning, the first thing you would do is that clarity. So before you even pay us for like a project management course, you are very certain it is aligning with your destiny. So that way we realize that there's a higher completion rate of our programs, because when you are very clear about how this impacts you, then you are willing to put in the work.
All right.
That clarity is very key before we go on a journey.
I guess that's what HR calls matching interest and skill. Yeah. That's what they call. When you come to HR, that's one of the things they try to marry. You may want to be a fighter, but you don't have strength.
You don't have the strength, so don't waste your energy.
All right. Shola Adio-Adepoju is the chairman of the board, iTrain Africa. Thank you so much for coming on the program, for bringing clarity. So
Thank you so much for having me.
Listen. All right, we'll take a quick break now. And when we come back, we'll talk about the very unique story you will not like to miss. Join us again.